When a man finally decides to step back, to stop chasing, to stop overextending himself for a woman who has been taking him for granted, the silence he leaves behind becomes louder than any words he could ever speak. It's in that silence where she begins to feel the void of his presence, the absence of the little things she once thought were ordinary but were actually extraordinary. The texts that used to light up her phone no longer come. The reassurance she used to hear when she doubted herself is no longer there. The consistent energy, the steady effort, the calm strength, suddenly it's missing, and with it comes the realization of just how much he mattered. When a woman takes a man for granted, she often assumes he will always be there. She assumes that no matter how she treats him, no matter how much she dismisses his value, he will continue to show up, to invest, to give. She mistakes his consistency for weakness and his loyalty for lack of options. But what she forgets is that a man who truly knows his worth won't keep pouring into a cup that never pours back. And when that man pulls away, when he chooses his peace over her drama, when he decides to walk in silence instead of trying to prove his value, that's when she starts to notice the emptiness his absence creates. Think about how powerful that absence is. It's not just the lack of attention, it's the lack of energy, of security, of presence. A high value man brings stability, he brings grounding. He brings a calm strength that anchors the relationship. And when he is no longer there, the world feels different. She may not admit it right away, but she begins to feel it in the small moments. When something good happens and she instinctively wants to share it with him but can't. When something bad happens and the comfort she used to run to is no longer available. When she's out with friends or entertaining new people and no one matches the depth of what she used to have, that's when the void becomes undeniable. The absence of a man who was once consistent is not just about missing the person, it's about missing the feeling. She misses how safe she felt when he was around. She misses how he brought balance into her chaos. She misses how he made her laugh, how he paid attention to details others ignored, how he saw her for who she was and accepted her anyway. These are the things she thought would always be there, until suddenly they weren't. And that absence creates a space that no one else seems capable of filling. At first, she may try to distract herself. She might lean into her pride, telling herself she's better off. She may seek attention from others, trying to replace what she lost with superficial validation. But no matter how much she tries, the energy isn't the same. Those new faces don't bring the same warmth, the same steadiness, the same depth. And over time, comparison creeps in, not because she wants it to, but because it's inevitable. Every small disappointment with someone else reminds her of how much she overlooked when she had the man she took for granted. And it's in those comparisons that the void he left becomes heavier, harder to ignore, and impossible to deny. Silence is a powerful teacher. His absence becomes her mirror. In the stillness, she begins to reflect not just on him, but on herself. She thinks about the times she dismissed his efforts, the times she downplayed his consistency, the times she pushed him away, assuming he would always come back. And now she has to face the reality that his absence isn't temporary, it's a decision. He chose himself over her neglect, and that choice stings in ways she didn't expect. This is the moment where respect begins to grow again, not because he demanded it, not because he argued for it, but because he walked away with dignity. His silence communicates what words never could, that his presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. And in realizing that, she begins to miss him, not just the man he was, but the way he made her feel when he was around. Man's absence creates space, not only for her to miss him, but also for him to grow. While she wrestles with the void, he's investing in himself. He's building his confidence, focusing on his purpose, and creating a life that shines without her. And the more he grows, the more undeniable the void becomes, because she sees not only what she lost, but also what he's becoming without her. That contrast deepens the feeling of missing him, because now she knows she didn't just lose the man she took for granted, she lost the version of him that she'll never get back. In the end, the absence of his presence isn't just about loneliness, it's about the realization that she underestimated his value, that she thought his love was ordinary when it was rare, that she thought he'd always be there until he wasn't. And it's in that silence, in that void, where she finally begins to miss the man she once overlooked. That is why absence, more than words, teaches her the value she couldn't see before. When a woman has taken a man for granted and eventually he walks away, one of the most powerful shifts that begins to take place in her mind is comparison. At first, she may not even notice it. She may think she's fine without him, that life will carry on as usual, and that she can easily find someone else to give her the same level of attention or love. But what she fails to understand is that a man who truly gives his all, who shows up with consistency, loyalty, and depth, is rare. It's only when she starts interacting with others, when she begins seeking what she lost in other places, that the comparisons creep in and reality begins to settle. At first, she might enjoy the temporary thrill of new attention. She might entertain conversations with men who flatter her, men who bring her excitement, men who make her feel validated. But soon, she realizes that this type of attention doesn't hold the same weight as the attention she once had. What he gave her wasn't just surface level, it had depth. And it wasn't just about words, it was about actions, about the way he cared, about the way he provided stability and certainty in moments when the world felt uncertain. And when she compares those fleeting interactions with the solid foundation he once gave, the difference is undeniable. Comparison begins subtly. Maybe the new people in her life forget the little details he always remembered. Maybe they don't show up when she needs them. Maybe they don't have the same patience she had. Maybe they're inconsistent, calling one day, distant the next, something she never had to worry about with him. And slowly those small disappointments start to echo in her mind. She realizes that what she once dismissed as normal, what she once thought was replaceable, was actually something extraordinary. This is the paradox of taking someone for granted. You only realize their true worth when you no longer have them. And the comparisons only make that realization heavier. When she looks back, she remembers the times she criticized him, doubted him, or ignored his efforts. She remembers the moments she thought she could do better, the moments she assumed there was something more exciting out there. But in comparing others to him, she begins to see that better doesn't exist in the way she imagined. She may find someone with one or two qualities he lacked, but she quickly notices they don't bring the same completeness he offered. That balance, that reliability, that strength. It's hard to find, and she starts to understand she had it all along. Another powerful aspect of comparison is emotional security. A high-value man gives a woman peace of mind. He doesn't make her guess where she stands. He doesn't play games. He doesn't disappear when things get difficult. That emotional security is often invisible while it's present because it feels natural, but once it's gone, the absence is sharp. Other men may bring excitement, but they also bring inconsistency, drama, or emotional instability. And when she feels that chaos, she can't help but think back to the man she once had, the man who made her feel safe without even trying. And that's when missing him grows stronger. She also compares the way he handled conflict. Maybe he wasn't perfect, but he didn't resort to manipulation. He didn't disrespect her. And he didn't abandon her in tough times. Instead, he tried to work through issues, to understand, to listen. When she experiences conflict with others and sees how quickly they give up, how easily they become defensive, or how little they invest in resolution, she realizes how different he truly was. She remembers the patience he showed, the effort he put in, and the way he valued the relationship enough to fight for it. Those memories only sharpen the pain of her loss. Over time, these comparisons stop being occasional thoughts and become recurring patterns. She goes out on dates, has conversations, receives compliments, and yet none of it feels the same. None of it carries the weight his presence carried. Every little gesture reminds her of something he once did, and every shortcoming of others makes her long for the way he used to show up. And it's not just about his actions, it's about the energy he brought into her life. Man's energy is unique, and when it's gone, no one can truly replicate it. That realization is one of the hardest truths she has to face. What's even more powerful is that while she's making these comparisons, he's no longer available in the same way. He's not sitting around waiting for her to notice. He's moving on, growing, investing in himself, and becoming stronger. And the more he grows, the sharper the contrast becomes for her. She sees him evolving, becoming more confident, more successful, more fulfilled. And when she compares that version of him with the men around her, the sense of loss multiplies. Because now she hasn't just lost the man she took for granted, she's losing the man he's becoming. And that's something she can never get back. This is why comparison is such a powerful force. It doesn't happen because she wants it to. It happens naturally. The human mind measures everything against past experiences. And when her past experience was with a man of value, strength, and consistency, every new interaction falls short. It's in those moments of quiet reflection when she's alone after being disappointed by someone else that she begins to miss him deeply. The comparison reminds her of what she once had, what she overlooked, and what she may never find again. That's the moment she starts to regret. That's when the weight of her choices hits her hardest. Because while she was busy taking him for granted, he was busy being exactly the man she needed. And by the time she realizes it, it's often too late. And that's why women start missing the man they took for granted, because comparison shows them the difference between what they settled for and what they lost. One of the deepest triggers that makes a woman start missing the man she once took for granted is the presence of silence and absence. Human beings often underestimate the power of what is no longer there. When a man who gave her consistency, affection, and attention suddenly stops giving her access to his energy, the silence becomes deafening. At first, she might not notice it. She may even enjoy the space, thinking she has freedom to do as she pleases. But as time passes, the absence begins to grow louder in her life because the little things he once did, which she ignored or brushed aside, suddenly stop happening. She begins to realize how much space he actually filled in her daily routine. Maybe it was the good morning text she used to expect. Maybe it was the way he checked in on her after a long day, or maybe it was the sound of his voice when things felt overwhelming. When those gestures disappear, it creates an emptiness she didn't anticipate. It's not just about the actions themselves, it's about the comfort and security they represented. The silence forces her to confront how much of her emotional stability was tied to his presence. The absence also makes her reflect on her own behavior. During the relationship, she may have dismissed his efforts, criticized him unnecessarily, or assumed his devotion would never fade. But now, with the silence staring her in the face, she realizes she can't take those things for granted anymore. That reflection can feel like a heavy weight because she begins to see herself clearly and recognize the role she played in pushing away someone who genuinely cared. Silence has a way of exposing truths that noise once covered up. What makes the absence even more powerful is that he no longer chases or tries to prove his worth. His decision to remove himself speaks volumes. By no longer trying to win her back or convince her of his value, he allows her to sit in the reality of what life feels like without him. That shift in dynamic is painful for her because she was once used to the comfort of knowing he would always be there. When she realizes that safety net is gone, the sense of loss intensifies. She may try to fill the silence with distractions, social media, friends, casual dating, or busy schedules, but late at night when the world quiets down, the absence becomes undeniable. That's when memories flood back. She remembers his laugh, his touch, the way he looked at her, and the times he showed up when no one else did. In those quiet moments, nostalgia hits hardest because there's nothing left to drown out the truth. She misses the man she thought would never walk away. The absence also impacts her sense of importance. A man who gives his energy and attention makes a woman feel chosen, valued, and desired. When that attention is withdrawn, she doesn't just miss him, she misses the version of herself she was when he loved her. His presence validated her in ways she didn't fully recognize until it was gone. Now, without him, she fills the void not only in her life, but also in her sense of identity. Over time, the silence becomes a mirror. Every unanswered message, every day without his voice, and every moment without his presence reminds her of what she lost. That reflection isn't easy to sit with because it forces her to acknowledge that he was not the problem she once thought he was. Her lack of appreciation was. The absence, rather than fading, grows heavier because it represents more than just him being gone. It represents the finality of her choices and the reality that some things can't be undone. And that is why silence and absence are some of the strongest forces that make a woman start missing the man she once overlooked. One of the most powerful reasons a woman begins to miss the man she once took for granted is when she sees him grow and evolve without her. In the beginning, she may not notice it, or she may even assume that his life would feel empty without her presence. But as time passes, she begins to witness something she didn't expect. He isn't stuck in pain, he isn't waiting by the phone, and he isn't begging for another chance. Instead, he is moving forward with his life. And that reality speaks louder than any words could. When a man invests in himself after being dismissed, it creates a ripple effect that changes everything. His focus shifts away from what he lost and toward what he can build. He starts putting more energy into his health, his career, his passions, and his personal growth. Instead of being defined by rejection, he uses it as fuel to sharpen his discipline and elevate his lifestyle. That growth not only improves his quality of life, but it also redefines how others see him, including the woman who once failed to appreciate him. The more he evolves, the clearer the contrast becomes. She remembers the version of him she thought she could always keep on standby, the man who was patient, consistent, maybe even overly available. But now she sees someone different, confident, independent, focused, and grounded in his own value. The man she once thought would wait forever is now becoming a man other women notice, admire, and desire. That transformation stirs emotions in her because she realizes the man she overlooked is no longer the same. He has upgraded, and she is no longer part of that journey. What makes this so impactful is that his growth exposes the reality of her choices. When she left or dismissed him, she may have thought she could find better or that she wouldn't feel his absence. But when she watches him build himself up, she's forced to confront the fact that she underestimated him. The man she took for granted is now thriving, and that success becomes a painful reminder of the stability and potential she walked away from. Seeing him glow without her is a powerful trigger because it challenges her ego. It's one thing to miss someone because of memories. It's another to miss them because they are now living at a higher level you could no longer access. Every accomplishment he achieves without her makes her think about the life she could have shared, and that realization lingers. The more he grows, the more she feels left behind. This is why personal growth after heartbreak is not just about healing, it's about transformation. When a man takes the pain of being taken for granted and channels it into building himself, he doesn't just recover, he becomes unshakable. And it's in that transformation that she begins to miss him, not just as the man he was, but as the man she never believed he could become. And that is why his growth without her becomes one of the strongest reasons she eventually misses him